All right, guys, welcome back to another episode here on abundance.io podcast. I have a good friend and just amazing business owner and leader in the investment space, Jeff Sekinger from 0%. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm breathing. I'm walking. Couldn't be happier.
And you just moved out to Miami a little bit ago, right?
Yeah, it's been just over 2 years now from San Diego.
Fantastic. How you liking it so far?
It's been awesome. I mean, you're right by the water. It's a wealthy city. People are healthy. You're saving on tax, so not much more you could want. The occasional hurricane, you kind of book it somewhere else, but other than that, it's pretty awesome.
Right on. Yeah, it seems like that's really a hub now. I've met so many entrepreneurs that are moving to Miami. It was kind of like Austin or Miami. Never been to Miami. It's my first time out here, having a great time and meeting super rad people. So I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, feels like a super conglomerate of entrepreneurs now. I don't know how you feel being here, but it's crazy how many people have moved here in the past like year and a half.
Oh, it's wild. And like even just going out with other people that I know in the space, we just bumping into people everywhere. We at Prime 211 last night, eating like amazing food, bumped into a bunch of other guys, did some business deals like at dinner.
Yep.
I was like, this is incredible. And it's a lot of young, motivated people that are really doing big things. When I reached out to some friends to build network for the show, you were one of the first names that came up. So I'm happy we got to meet and sitting here on the podcast.
Yeah, me too.
So walk us through, investment is a big word, raising capital, investing in projects. It's a just kind of a far off gray area for a lot of people. They don't know where to start. A lot of people got smoked in this last crypto cycle. We have a lot of corrections happening in the market right now where the market isn't performing well. So I know you've made your own niche in a lot of these different sectors and you've been able to do some really like big things. And you seem like you're pretty calm and collected right now, so I'm assuming things are going well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just kinda walk us through your process of, you know, what really turned you on to entrepreneurship in the first place, and where did you really start your journey?
Yeah, I mean, really, because I didn't have a choice, I felt like. I was just like naturally I pursue a few different values, which is so I don't know if have you heard of John D. Martini before?
I have not.
Okay. He's got a really weird haircut, but he's a super smart guy. He taught me about I took a course from him called Values Determination, which is pretty much like, hey, you have a highest value and then you've got, different values that support that. So I realized that my highest value was having like freedom of what clothes I'm wearing, who I'm hanging around, where I'm going. Wanted to have uncapped earning potential was number two, and I want to see impact on people. And I was in the, working for JP Morgan in asset management, which I thought was my dream job,
Mhm.
like growing up. And it's not a bad company, not a bad role whatsoever. I actually think very, very highly of the company. But it just wasn't the fit for me. So, what I did actually, I'll rewind back a little bit. In high school, I got injured in football. They put me on opiates and muscle relaxers. That rolled into about a 6 year issue where I was trying to get over it myself. I mean, actively, I was trying to get off of this stuff for like 4 years, but the
Mhm.
doctors kept putting me on this thing to get off of this thing, and then that thing to get off of that thing. So next thing you know, I'm taking all these, prescriptions, and I'm like, all right, well, I need to actually get well and get off of this because
Mhm.
ultimately they're just prescribing you different types of opiates. It's
There's no
it's
way out.
terrible.
It's no way out.
Yeah.
It's horrible, and so many people in the US are on multiple drugs. Like, I think
Mm,
it's 70, 80% of the population is. It's
yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
I've talked about it before in my story, but I lost my father to prescription drugs like back in 2010, where eventually he took his own life. And it was 5 years of take this pill, then that pill, then this pill, then that pill,
Yeah.
then this pill, and that pill. He came out to visit me in Hawaii and he had like literally a separate small duffel bag that had all of his medications in it. I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So, bro, I'm
Sad.
so proud of you for like stepping up and doing the work to get out of that because it is a very slippery slope. And it's really sad that we lose a lot of people
Yeah.
to that process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really grateful that it happened. I mean, similar to you, my aunt died from it, my cousin died from it, had four, friends from high school die from it too, which was like, obviously, I'm like, all right. So I remember this pretty vividly because I got to a place where I was 60K in debt and I had a 524 credit score, living in my dad's basement, going to JP Morgan, just hopeless, helpless, had no idea what I was going to do. And I realized, well, first of all, I got to go into rehab because I'm fighting that whole thing for forever.
Mhm.
So I finally went in and And I use that as a place to just really reset and kind of paint the vision for what I wanted to do. So when I went in there, there's a guy named Christopher Russell that had me create a hero story.
Hmm.
So it's like you kind of step out of your own body and you write down, hey, what has your life been so far in like third person, and then what is it going to be in the future? So I wrote that story. Now, like a lot of those things and that in the vision board that I created in rehab is actually starting to come true. But when I was in there, I used that as a place to be like, wow, okay, I'm the reason why I'm escaping my reality is because I have a bad reality. And the bad reality is that because it doesn't align with my values. So I kind of put all these things together where I'm like, I got to create a new, reality for myself, or I'm going to go back to what I was doing. So when I got out, first thing I'm like, okay, why am I going? So I was still working, for the company. I was still keeping my stuff together. I don't know
Right.
how people were blown away. I got a 3.2 all through, college, graduated the finance degree, went into the bank, which by the way, happens to a lot of people in this industry and specifically in finance. And you hear that in like legal as well, but like people can keep their stuff together and they look all good from the outside, but really, they're having a tough time. But I got out and I realized, okay, I'm in this job because I don't have my income and finances together. And that's why, the other majority of the people are here. They're not like ultra inspired to be, going to their job.
Right. Right.
So I'm like, all right, how do I get out of this? I got to take care of my finances. I checked my credit score, 524, tons of debt. I actually went into more debt to learn these different things about entrepreneurship, about, self-awareness, about how to like start a business online, about personal branding. We were just talking about Gary Vee and his book Crush It. So I decided to just commit fully to that and changed a lot of habits in my life, but realized like, okay, my credit situation is really bad.
Hmm.
So there's no way I'm getting an apartment. There's no way I'm getting a car. There's no way I'm funding a business. So I figured out how to repair my own credit. I had late payments. I had a collection. I had, a ton of debt. And I brought my score up from a 524 to a 793 in about 9 months
Wow.
and moved debt over to 0% interest business credit, which is just, it's a way to move high interest debt over to something where you're not paying interest for a certain amount of time. So you have some breathing room. And also it reports on the business, not your personal credit. So now your credit score shoots way up because utilization is 30% of your score. So it gave me some room, started a marketing company, had success on that. And then I started to teach about what I was doing because Gary Vee's just like, hey man, just document everything. So I'm
Yep.
like,
All
let's
right.
do it. So I just started to document everything about my credit journey and what I was doing in entrepreneurship. And people were like, how did you just do that? And then it got kind of overwhelming where people were like, what can I pay you to learn what you just did? And then that rolled into 0%. I launched my first like info product.
Let me
Um,
stop you there for a second because like you just unraveled so many important points that I want the listeners to really focus on. That point where what was the guy's name that was in the rehab center? Scott? What was his name?
Christopher Russell.
Christopher
Yeah.
Russell. He gave you that exercise for you to step into unconscious awareness, right? To where you were like, okay, because when we can pull ourselves out of it, we can really see what the issues are. Because like, let's make up this make believe story about this person that isn't in the place that I'm at and where I want to be, and then allows you to step into conscious awareness that allowed you to really start seeing life in a different way. I was speaking to a good friend last night talking about it. It's like if we're always in that, like, it's almost like miscoherence like in the brain, and when we're living in that, like we don't know how to get out of it, right? It's like we're living in our own
Yeah.
matrix. So that simple power. And who's the guy that actually wrote like the hero story? Like, did you go through that process or was that just a different
I
uh
wrote it for
oh, you
myself.
did? Okay.
Yeah. So
But like the hero's journey, was that the exercise that you did?
yeah.
Okay. That's so powerful. I can't remember, I was in music school and they showed us that when I was like 22. And that's when I
Mm,
started to like really break out of my old thinking process. Like if you write it out and you visualize it and you say, hey, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to look like, this is who I want to be around, this is the bank account I want, this is
exactly.
the place I want to live. If you don't ever tell yourself that and get it out of you and write it down and like see it, then it never happens. And we wonder why. It's like if we don't plan for success, and naturally we're just going to fail. Like if we
Hmm.
can't see it, and
I
nobody else around us can believe in it either.
I literally just shot a video on Instagram. It's just an Instagram story the other morning, but I started off with and it's not my quote by the way, but if you don't know where you want to go in 5 years, you're already there. So if you're not
Wow.
planning for anything, it's like you're not going anywhere. And that was like why, I mean, that's why majority of people never go anywhere because they never have a plan. I have like a 4 steps that I implement now to like achieve anything that I want. And it's like you got to have, a target, a thing that you actually want to do. You need to have a deadline, you need to have a plan, and then taking consistent action. And if you can do those 4 things, you're likely to achieve things. But that's exactly, you're right. No one even notices, like, is conscious enough to say, okay, where am I going and how do I get to ultimately where I want to go? And what are the exact things down to the minute detail
Mhm.
of what I want? And I think that's why a lot of people are lost, unfortunately.
For
So,
sure. And at that point, when you decided to make that decision, the pain got bad enough to where you were like, it's so bad, I have to change this. Most
yeah.
people sit around and will just whine about their pain and whine about their pain and whine about their pain and never actually do something because it hasn't gotten bad enough. When you start to realize that and actually look at your life and where you want to go and see how far away it is, and you become conscious of that, that's when the pain can get hard enough and hurt enough to kick you in the ass to get you going. So anybody listening in, I challenge you, listen to what he's saying here, because we've all had to go through it to where we were somewhere in our lives that eventually we woke up one day and said, I am freaking tired of this. I know that I'm
Mhm.
better than this. I know that there's other people out there that I can help, but I got to help myself first. And so, we teach a lot of our students, like, stop being selfish, get out of your own way, because there are other people out there that need to hear your message. So I commend you, brother. You did the work. It just catapulted you into this new life that you drew out. How long ago did you actually draw out that vision board?
So I went in, I mean, I got out on February 28th. Or no, I went in February 28th, got out the very last day of the next month. So, I mean, it's almost been 5 years now because that was 2018.
And how old
Yeah.
are you now?
I'm 29.
You're 29 years old.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought you were like an old man like me, like about to turn 35. So
You
you
don't
do.
look old.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. It's all the avocados and, cold water plunge and hot
exactly.
sauna, eating good, take care of your body. It's the only body we get, right? When you were talking about those 4 steps of how you've achieved your finances, did you also apply that to mindset goals, body goals, health goals, relationship goals?
I mean, yeah, you can apply it to anything. When I got out, all I did was focus on building the right relationships, building businesses and my finances, and then my health. So I applied it to all of those. And what I would do is I would, like, I remember I used to wake up and like watch the news. Like that was the first thing I do. So immediately I get fear instilled in me.
Yep.
Instead, what I did is I put a whiteboard over my TV and I have my goals and positive affirmations written down. So every morning I wake up and I see my goals and I'm focused on my goals and then
That's
you rewrite
powerful.
them. And there's a lot of like little habits that I implement. Another one was we called it 90-day blitzes where we would say, okay, we want to make, early stage, we want to make 40K, over the next 3 months, right? When we first were starting our marketing agency. How do we do that? Right. Because then that says like, all right, here's the goal. We've got the deadline. Now we got to be forced to create the plan. And you can chunk down the plan. That's what most people do. They're like, oh, I want to be worth $1 billion. Okay, well, what's the plan to actually do that?
Right.
So it forced us to create that plan, and then that's all we focused on. And then once we would hit the target, we would then go. We flew down to Tampa. I was living in like a 900 square foot apartment with another entrepreneur right when I got out of my dad's house. So like, yeah, it was like really powerful to actually be able to chunk things down and do that. And we did that with our fitness, did that with my personal development, took it like very, very seriously. And then yeah, with relationships too, we were intentional about going to events and meeting new people. And it was a whole transformation whenever I hear people, and it doesn't matter if they're struggling with the same problem or if it's just like, oh, I just need to change my life somehow. The number one thing you need to do is change your environment. So you look for, even the clothes that I'm wearing, the bed that I was sleeping on, the phone that I had all, because what you do, you attach your emotions and your previous behaviors to those objects. And
100%.
then when you see those objects again, it puts you back into that state. And then when you're in that state, then you're just repeating the bad habits. And same goes for people around you, right? So when you have those same types of people that you had those old bad habits on, or maybe they're not even bad. Maybe you just are pissed off that you're mediocre.
Yep.
It's because you keep hanging around the same people, having the same things around you in the same environment. So the first thing I did was I changed my environment.
Yep.
I did whatever I had to do, which everyone has excuses. Oh, I had this, or I just got out of rehab, or this, I got parents that are alcoholics. Doesn't matter. You got to have that mindset of like, you got to take extreme ownership for where you're at. And then you got to make the decision to go change as much as you can, because there's no way to have a new output without, new inputs. So,
Dude, so powerful, man. That's so powerful because it's so true. Like with the old environments, like I want all of you listening in to do an exercise. Okay. The next 5 people that you hang out with that are like your closest friends, whether that's a colleague at work, whether that's a cousin, a brother, whoever it is. And the next time you sit down and have a conversation with them, just listen. Are they complaining most of the time? Or are they being positive and talking about things that they're changing in their life and being proactive most of the time? Because last night, I met a couple of guys for the first time that are entrepreneurs doing really big things. And we sat there for 2 hours. There's not one single complaint or like traffic was terrible or like my girlfriend is like holding me back. That wasn't the conversation. Because he's
gossiping about their high school friends.
talking about the past, right?
Yeah.
Like my rule is like if those people are not in the room, don't talk about them.
Yeah.
And that's
And if
like
you wouldn't say it to their face, don't say it.
100%.
Yeah.
And if it's something bad, like if they are in the wrong, then yeah, go say it to their face. Be the friend that nobody else will be and tell them the damn truth, And so that's powerful. I love the fact that you talked about environment because when I started my business, I was, still kind of bouncing in and out of my hometown. I love my hometown, but when I moved back there, I knew that I was going to move back to Cascade, a mountain town that was away from my hometown. And it's because a new environment is like, I think differently. I act differently. I operate differently. I can't go back into my old environments.
Yep.
And I moved to Laguna Beach right when I started. I was about 2-3 years into my business already. And it was just kind of, flatline. It wasn't really growing my marketing agency at the time. It was still doing well, but I was wondering why it wasn't going to the next level. Well, I wasn't really hanging around entrepreneurs. I wasn't in a new space. I wasn't creating new habits. I wasn't going out and meeting new people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of my life was still just kind of maybe growing slightly. But as soon as I moved to Laguna, got into a new environment, my business exploded.
Yep.
And and I didn't realize it at the time, but you're like, why am I so productive? Why am I so focused? It's like new environment, new habit. So any of you that are in a place and you've always thought about moving somewhere because you want to be in a new environment, you want more sunshine, you want a new experience, I challenge you to do that. Because when you even moved from San Diego to Miami, how did that impact your business and your relationships?
I mean, yeah, I think I'm trying to think back to what we were doing, but I mean, I know for a fact that we doubled the amount of income that we had in like, I think it was like 4 or 5 months. So it's like, and that's just because of everything working together all at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it had a huge, and it's the same thing. You feel uncomfortable because I grew up in the same like hometown for like 20 years of my life. And then I went off to, college, but I came back to the same hometown to go back to work for the bank and just right back into the, the rhythm of all the BS that I was dealing with, which by the way, I like my hometown as well, but if you got to make sacrifices in life, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. The more that you're comfortable in doing the same thing over and over again, first of all, it's not even healthy for your brain. Like your brain can literally create new divots inside of the brain when you give it new experiences. So it helps your brain be like healthy and evolve. But secondly, who likes to be the same old,
Yeah.
old and not level up? I feel like I'm dying. I tell people all the time, I'm like, dude, I would rather go drown in this pond than be average.
Yeah.
Like that's just how I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
Same. I was going through the same thing over and over and over again where I always thought it was the job I was working at of like why I was unhappy. So I was like, oh, I'd work in a job for a couple months and I go change it up. And then it's new for a couple months and there's new people. And I was all excited. And then it was like back to the same thing. And I'm like, what is this like wall that I keep hitting? And it was like, literally it's because I wasn't creating something for myself. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you meet new people every day. You have new problems every day. Every day is different. Like I've never had the same exact day of being in my business. And I don't think you have either. Because in order to grow, we have to keep bringing new challenges to the table. And the way that our brain compartmentalizes time is by different experiences. So like, when you go on a trip, you're like, man, it feels like I was gone forever. And then you're at home, like working or going to your job or whatever for like 3 weeks will fly by. And you're like, how did that just fly by? It's like,
Yeah.
that's literally how we process time. So when you are doing things and changing up and traveling and having different days all the time, it's like literally you live a longer life.
Yeah.
You will look back on your life and be like, wow, I did the things I wanted to. And it's like, at 90, I'm probably going to feel pretty tired and be ready to
That's
move
why
on.
you're so young. That's why you
There
look
we
so
go.
young, man. That's it.
Too kind, too kind. So I want to talk about debt. And I was just at a Grant Cardone event last couple of days talking about debt and leveraging attention and smart ways to be investing in yourself. And it's just a good reminder. Yeah, I've read the books, but when you get in rooms with people that are doing big things, there's a different energy that you get. There's different things that happen that stick with you. And, everybody talks about good debt and bad debt. And he was saying, like if he had to start all the way over right now, he would go rack up a bunch of debt and spend all that on getting attention and spend all that on getting authority. He's like, I'd rack up $2, $3, $4, $5 million. Like that is good debt. That is allowing me to skip everybody in line and get up front because like money is going to attention, especially in this next cycle. Money is going to attention. It's all going to be flowing to the top. The people that can captivate attention, that's where they're going to go invest. That's who they're going to go and buy from. Right. So anybody listening in, like debt is not a bad thing. It's bad debt is a bad thing. Going and buying handbags, going and buying nice cars, going and buying all this stuff that you can't afford. Yeah, that's bad debt. But by leveraging other people's money, right? What do they call it? OPM. Leveraging other people's money, you're able to go out there and buy your time back to be able to get ahead. So when you were working at Chase, and it was Chase, right? Or JP Morgan, same thing. You said you were in a bunch of debt. What was that debt from?
Just the spiraling of that habit. I mean, what I was doing was I was taking out loans and I was trading crypto, and then I was paying for my habit. And I mean, my habit got so bad that I was like, it was like $1,000 a day. So like,
Wow.
it wasn't a small like, oh yeah, you just take, $50 every couple of weeks. No, that was not
you
the
were
case.
in deep. You were all in.
When I go all in, or when I go in, I go all in.
I'm the same.
But
not with opiates, but
yeah.
But
hopefully it's healthy. I mean,
it wasn't though. It wasn't though. Like that's why I'm resonating with your story because like us, and I even say people that are addicts or have addiction like tendencies, that is a superpower. It's just focused on the wrong thing.
Exactly. You got to just be obsessed about the right things. That's it. I mean,
and it's a better drug.
Yeah, way better.
Breathing, drinking good water, working out, building your business. Much better highs.
Yeah.
Much better highs. And it's like feeling good because then you get the impact and the right people and like, it's just, it's better.
Yeah. So to answer your question though, the first 60,000 was, dumb, right? That was just like the big culmination of, 6 years all adding up into, okay, here's where Jeff is at.
Yeah.
When I got out, I still had a healthy like credit, right? I wasn't, when I get out, I had like a few months where I wasn't paying off stuff, but I still had like some room on my credit profile where I could actually go invest money.
Yeah.
So I just put that into books, courses, mentors, masterminds. And like, I learned a bunch of really valuable things. One of them was from Lewis Mocker, he's not like huge or anything. He's an Australian guy. But he taught something called a 4-product empire about how to just build digital products and have like, okay, you need to have a subscription, you need to have a low ticket, you need to have a high ticket. And like, I built my foundational business around that. And like, that's what, it made me leaps. I think the first month that I launched like the first thing that I had no idea what the hell I was doing. It was like a pre-sale of a pre-sale. Cause that's what they taught me to do. Right. Yeah. Because I had the outline of everything, but I built it as it, the offer went on. But I think I made like $5,000, the first month. I'm like, holy crap. And then that turned into like 12 and 25 and 100. And then it just, went from there. So, but yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you're like scared to go into debt, you're just pretty much slowing yourself down and you're capping your potential.
100%.
But you have to be intentional with where you're putting the money.
For sure.
Like, yeah, Cardone he had a bunch of products and offers in a company, right? So he can put a ton of money into attention, right? Because he's got all these things to sell. But if you got nothing to sell and you just go run a bunch of Facebook ads, it's probably not going to work out too well for you.
For
Because
sure.
I did that actually when I first started. I was trying to like build websites for people, but I had no idea what I was doing, and I spent money on Facebook ads and got zero. So it all depends on where you're at. I think it's very important to have like self awareness.
Definitely. And, you know, if you're under 100K, like if your net worth is under 100K, like you're under 100K liquid, I always tell people like the best investment you can make in is yourself,
I agree.
is in finding the right mentors of where people that are doing the things that you actually want to be doing, like fully, they aren't just the facade online that's like posting videos of them renting Lamborghinis in Vegas. Like find people that are actually building a business, have a healthy family life, they're healthy, right? Have a
hmm
healthy mindset and they're having impact and they're giving back and growing a business. Like
hmm
those are the people I say go follow, go watch their free content. Like for years, when I knew I was going to have you on the show, I was watching your content. It's like, it's so good. Like you just give out
I
so
appreciate
much
it.
good information and it's just so authentic because you've been through it, you've done it,
hmm
and you can really see that, you know what you're talking about. And so, when people want to go, and we'll put a link below the episode. So anybody that wants to come in and check out your stuff, they definitely can. Because yeah, I love what you're doing. I'm so glad that Dave and Jake got us in touch because man, I love talking about this topic, especially getting creative as we're going into this next cycle.
hmm
Um, and that was really the driver of creating the Abundance podcast, is to be bringing smart people on that are doing really creative things, because the old institutional way of quote unquote becoming wealthy will keep you poor. Let's just
hmm
say it, right?
Climb the ladder.
Climb the ladder.
Heard that a zillion times. I'm
Because
like,
like even if you're making 50 grand a year after taxes and after expenses, you got what, like 3-4 grand to put into what, your
yeah.
401k, to put into, like,
Here,
that'll never break you free, especially with inflation, the cost of gas, the cost of dairy products, the cost of all this other stuff. It's like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. So somebody that is, looking to invest, especially in this next chapter, like if you were to go back to when you're first starting out, but you still know what you know now, what would you do? Like, what would be like a first move for you where you could set some capital aside and feel good about that investment? I know it's kind of a
like
loaded question,
when
but
I was first starting in entrepreneurship, like
yeah,
5 years ago.
yeah, but you know what you know now, but you don't have all the capital that you have now.
Yeah, I would probably continue to put even more money back into myself and my business. I think I did pretty well at that, but I think I could have put even more back into my company. Because I was heavily invested in crypto, and I was the first limited partner in our own fund. And when I first made my first 200 grand, like that I had after expenses and everything and taxes, I put it into my fund, which was great. It shows that I have skin in the game. I
Yep.
believe in what we're doing. But like at the same time, putting thinking about your business as an investment, I think is really important. And putting money back into your company, so much money where you can like, you could take risks with, hiring multiple media buyers that, compete against each other for your business. You could, spend a lot more money than you feel comfortable with on a new executive that came from a company that's 10x, bigger than you, and get
Yeah.
uncomfortable with some of those expenses. And then I obviously there's like I could name a few like projects and stuff I wish I would have put money into when they were a 5 million market cap that turned into 30 billion. But that's
Yep.
like it doesn't really matter at this point. But that's probably the number one thing I would do. And I totally agree with you. If you have less than 100K, like keep putting it back into yourself. And if you have a business, max out yourself and then go your business and then go to things that you don't control. So if you look at the wealthiest people in the world, okay, where did their wealth come from? They came typically from the equity in their companies.
Hmm.
But so they put all their time, energy, and effort and money into their own company, but they did that, and Warren Buffett or someone else would probably say, hey, diversification, right? Diversification is typically for people that don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
So if you're really focused and you have complete control of one thing, then and you put, your time, energy, and resources in that one thing, and you have complete control of it, you can have quantum leaps in your wealth. But a lot of people will just, they extract money from their business or whatever they're doing, and then they go put it into poo poo inu coin, which they have no control over. And it's
Right.
like, okay, well, how is that? That's going to get you running on this hamster wheel. But like, by the way, I just posted today about you got to invest money.
Yeah.
Like if you hold cash, that's a decision that you are making yourself. That's an asset. Okay. That's not, it's the same thing. Like you going to buy a real estate property or you going to buy, an equity, right? You're still holding cash and you're deciding to do that. And it's a guaranteed loss because we've been on a 50-year experiment where the dollar came off the gold standard.
Yep.
And now we increased money supply 40% in the last 2 years. Oh, and so over 100 years of US dollars, we just increased that over 40% in just the last 2 years. So what does that do? That debases the currency. So it's really important to invest money. So I'm not an advocate against investing money, but I think, for me, I would have put even more into that to just grow even quicker so that I can then pour more value and put it into places that I believe are going to appreciate quickly.
That's such great insight. And yeah, for me going back, once the business was growing and I noticed like these different like plateaus, then I would go invest in myself. And there were
Mm,
so many things that I passed on for years. I'm like, why did I not spend the time doing that? In the beginning, we were spending a lot of time, like 5, 6 years ago, spending a lot of time creating organic content. And we spent 6 months on it and really didn't get an immediate return and built our YouTube channel up to like 40K subscribers. And then we just stopped.
yeah.
We just stopped doing it. I had mentors say, you need to be getting on stages. You need to be creating podcasts. You need to go, meet with these other experts in these other areas of your business. And I was like, nah, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. But doing okay, well, like you're either moving forward or backwards.
Mm,
And so like, if you're not consistently growing with your finances, your business, physically, mentally, like you are actually taking a step backwards. And
yeah.
it took me a long time to figure that out. So same for me. I mean, going back then, I would have been like doubling down on my business, doubling down on my employees, because I
Mm,
was always cheap on employees, trying to hire all these
yeah.
VAs from overseas, trying to hire kids right out of college that had no experience that I get as free interns, which actually one of them turned out to be really well. And now he's like investing for me and doing a lot of great stuff. So that
Nice.
was a win. But like you said, hiring A players, like you will end up paying more money for hiring B and C players
Mm,
than you will for A players.
yeah.
We finally figured that out in the last probably 2 years, and business has grown exponentially. Because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hiring people from bigger companies,
Mm,
they've been through those breaking points
yeah.
that you're about to go through. They're like, oh yeah, it looks like you should do this, but actually do this. Trust me, this is where we
Mm-hmm.
did the thing. So great insight there. Um, so I know a lot of, the last year, 2 years, we were like, oh, everyone's talking about crypto, crypto, crypto. And like everyone was going into it. Even though I had like decent insight, I mean, I still lost like 300 grand this last cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and, cashed out some, didn't cash out others, held on to some of products that I really believe in, that I feel like the next halving that's going to happen in when is the next one going to happen? It's going to be like
It's
maybe
about,
in the
yeah,
next
little
quarter.
little less than 3 years. No, no, no,
No.
no. It's within like 2 years. I forget the exact date. I think it's 2024. I forget the exact date. I think it's April of 2024. It's usually it's right underneath 4 years
Okay.
from the previous one.
Gotcha. So I'm just holding on to that, being like, all right, I hope everything comes back. I caught it.
Look it up for the audience.
What's that?
It's right online. You
Yeah.
can look it up in a second. So.
Okay. Um, yeah, let's just get at it. Cause I just talked to a buddy the other day that was saying that he thought this April coming up in 2023 was going to start the process, but it was going to be, can't remember if he said longer or shorter process. I need to get him on. He's running one of the biggest Bitcoin operations in Canada. I should get you guys in connection.
Nice.
He is
Yeah, it's
like
20.
one of the smartest people I've ever spoken to. He was at a mastermind we were at in Mexico. And
So yeah, it's April 8th of 2024.
okay, there you go. You guys heard it right here. Get ready.
480 days and 5 hours.
There you go. Okay. So for people that got smoked in this last cycle, or for people that, haven't cashed out, that are still believing in it or looking to like right now, where to invest in crypto, like what advice would you give that person?
Yeah. So we're at a really interesting time. First of all, if you look at previous bear markets, which we could pull up 18 charts right now, but typically it's 3 years of a bull market and then 1 year of a bear market. And the bear market typically ends about 12 months from the all-time high, which we just passed the 12-month mark like a couple weeks ago. So like historically, if you're looking at just the previous cycles, like we're at the low or we hit the low or we're very, very close to the low. And I can pretty much with certainty say that we're much, much closer to the bottom than we are to the top. The thing that's a lot different about this cycle previous to other ones is, I mean, it's, still a lot of people really worried about it, but I'm like, I bought Bitcoin back in 2013, sold it in 2014, started to heavily get back into the industry in 2017, and I've been every single day since 2017. And what we have this cycle, as opposed to previous cycles, is we have true institutional adoption and interest. I mean, the largest asset managers, Fidelity just released like 2 weeks ago, institutional and to their retail clients, Bitcoin trading, which goes to tens of millions of clients, and they have 4 trillion in assets. Same thing with BlackRock. They just partnered with Coinbase. They're a $10 trillion asset manager, and they the biggest asset manager of the entire world, and they're now getting into Bitcoin. The reason why, if you notice, I just said Bitcoin is because that is deemed as a commodity. So that's the big thing that's happening right now is we don't know what's going to happen, whether, hey, is this going to be a commodity or security? Right now, the SEC and CFTC are fighting over these assets. Like literally, CFTC is saying, hey, Tether, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, those are all commodities, and we need to regulate those. The SEC is saying, no, those are securities. We need to regulate those.
Gotcha.
So they're fighting over them. So that's like a big, and that will impact like the price of the asset. If you look at when XRP got, investigated for being an unregistered security, they got delisted from all U.S. exchanges and price went way down. And it was suppressed. We never reached an all-time high, back in 2017 like we did. It wasn't even close to the previous all-time high. So like it will have a significant impact on price. Then they need to register as securities. Then they can go on actual broker dealers. But like the majority of the crypto projects won't do that
Right.
because it's so intense. Like the registration process is so intense.
So what
So
what what coins do you think will actually get onto these like mainstream platforms, and when do you think that'll happen?
So the key from what we're seeing, because I don't know if you heard about library coin being deemed as security, but
No.
we stay up to date with this stuff. Like
You have to.
yeah,
That's your
every day.
business.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
But
start texting you every
yeah,
other day, and be like, Jeff, what do I do? What's going on? What's happening?
feel free. Not financial advice, but I can give you my thought process. But yeah, they got deemed as security, so they lost the big battle against the SEC because they had a big centralized ownership of the project. They did an ICO, and then they're also like if you do or don't do an ICO, the replacement for that is a pre-mine. So if you like, if the founders own a significant portion of it, they're raising, which by the way, the majority of the new crypto projects that are all big now were VC backed, which means that they raise capital through a token instead of offering an actual security. And then they take that capital, and a lot of times they sell that token a lot of times after they release it to retail. So they kind of dump on retail.
Yep.
And then they take that money and they invest it into their business and into their employees and into their technology and all that. So that's what they're looking for is like, are people making an investment in a common enterprise with the expectation of future profit? And that's what the majority of these crypto projects are doing. And they're VC backed and they're very centrally owned and they're operating like tech companies without registering. So there's you need to look at, all you're doing is you're looking at case law and saying, hey, what has happened to Library? What's about to happen to Ripple? And then you make your decision on what you want to hold from there. So like we've already started to cut some positions that we think are going to be in trouble. And I think Ethereum is kind of a big question mark right now. We'll see what happens. But there's certain projects like Caspa that just released. Probably no one has heard about it on here unless you
I
follow
haven't.
me. But there was no pre-mine, no ICO. The founders own like less than 3% of the supply, and it's all community driven. So yes, they're working on the project, but they're not directly benefiting. These guys, like they are cited in the Ethereum white paper, and they're so rich from buying crypto early on that they don't care. But like looking for certain projects like that are checking the boxes that are that are going to help in not being deemed as securities. That's like the big difference. If you don't have that time to do all of that research, the safest play is Bitcoin because it is a commodity that they've openly said, hey, this is a commodity. So if you don't know, what to do, a lot of times it's just best to either invest with a professional or just go buy Bitcoin. I mean, just DCA into Bitcoin over time.
Yep.
That's it.
And explain to the listeners what DCA is.
Just dollar cost average. So just invest set amounts of money at set intervals. So every week I'm buying 1 Bitcoin, or every month I invest 10% of my income into Bitcoin, right? It's just like on a set schedule. You got to do it, and the reason is because this is exactly it's so funny. You see you know these things, but when they don't pop up for a couple of years, you kind of like forget how real it is.
Yep.
How bad people are at investing because they make emotional decisions. So
Yep.
that's the number one thing you're trying to remove is how do I not make emotional decisions with investing? So every time we hear about, the Voyager, Celsius, then we hear about FTX, then we hear about BlockFi going bankrupt. What does that tell the average retail investor? They're like, holy crap, I need to sell the bottom and freak out and then just sit on my cash because I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
When in reality, every time I'm hearing that bankruptcy, I'm like, okay, we're getting closer and closer to the bottom. I'm buying more and more as each one of these bad events happen, and then, keeping it in a safe place.
Yep.
We're lucky to not have experienced any negative effects from all of these companies going bankrupt. So it's kind of been whack-a-mole this year. It's been really, really crazy to watch.
It's been wild. So
yeah.
even after like the big, when Bitcoin went from, what was the all-time high this last go around? 69,000. And when it started dropping quite quickly, were you still DCAing in as it was going down this whole last year?
No, I think I probably started right around like, I think it was in February. We were sitting at like the very low 40s, and I would start, and I will scale into things. So like as the price starts to drop, you'll start to, maybe you're putting 1% at 40K. Then at 38, you're putting maybe like 1.5% of your cash position is what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And then when you get lower and lower, you're increasing a lot of times we'll set limit orders so that it's very unemotional. So like when Bitcoin hits 17, 16, 15, it just, our buy limits just increase in size. So we're just buying more and more and decreasing our average purchase price. So from us on a fund perspective, like, yes, we've had a drawdown this year for sure, because we're a net long fund.
Yeah.
And we're a long-term player. And we understand these cycles and how volatile they are. It's tough for the average person because they don't. But we know that our value of our fund in Bitcoin terms is going up and up. And we know that we've consistently been outperforming Bitcoin. So like we're not even, yes, we had a drawdown in US dollar terms, but if you look in Bitcoin terms, we're in a good spot. And we believe that Bitcoin is going a lot higher than it is now.
Yeah. And that's what people need to understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to understand that when Bitcoin is going down in value and the dollar isn't fluctuating that much, when it's going down in value, people start to freak out, but then you're acquiring more Bitcoin, the cheaper that it gets when you're DCAing in.
Yeah, you're lowering your average purchase price.
Right. So you're still winning. And that's
Yeah.
what people need to understand, because we all know, especially now it's becoming a commodity, it's going to do the halving process again. Every time it does the halving process, we see double the all-time high. Like what was it before 69,000? The last time was like 34, 38.
Yeah, from the low, it went up like 2,000%.
And so that's going to happen.
And before that,
again.
it was like tens of thousands of percent. But
so that's what I'm saying. Is like, that's going to continue to happen. We already know that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not like guaranteed, but the sun's not guaranteed to come up tomorrow either. So,
right, but there's a good chance it's going to.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, with the traction that it has now, it is so, like, that's what I'm saying. It's so different than the previous bear markets. Because when Bitcoin went from 6K to 3K in 2018, everyone's like, dude, it's done.
It's done.
It's going to $10 and have fun. Go buy some pizzas with it.
Right.
But like now it's like, it's not going anywhere. I mean, some of the biggest public companies, the largest asset managers, 20 insurance companies, Harvard, Yale, Brown, all have it in their endowments. Like it's really not going anywhere. And one of the big issues we're having right now, which I think we've seen price go way lower than what people were expecting. Like we've never seen price go down past the previous all-time high of the last cycle. So the last high was about 20K. We've came down to 15.5 this year. And I think one of the big reasons is because all this paper Bitcoin, because of these exchanges, like you'll go deposit Bitcoin or you go put Tether on the exchange, you buy Bitcoin. They're supposed to be holding the Bitcoin, but they're acting like a US bank where they don't actually hold your assets. They go do like FTX. They would feed their own hedge fund, and they're supposed to be holding your Bitcoin. So really, we had someone did the math the other day. They counted like on these exchanges on how much, Bitcoin they really have, and it was like 36 million when there's only 19 million released. So there's a lot of like paper Bitcoin because these exchanges aren't actually holding your own Bitcoin, which is hurting price. Because then people think they own the Bitcoin, and in reality, no one owns the Bitcoin. So we're seeing a mass exodus of exchanges right now, like by far the biggest withdrawals we've ever seen. I mean, yesterday's withdrawals from Binance, it was like $3.9 billion. And which is great because it forces that exchange to go buy Bitcoin and
You'll
let
get
the
it back.
users withdraw it. So I think we're actually way undervalued. And if you look at realized price and a lot of other metrics, we're at a place where it makes a lot of sense to add to long-term positions. And I'll say this last thing, and then you can move on to whatever. But the big difference that what you're talking about and what the average investor doesn't understand is in crypto, it's so volatile that it's pretty much impossible to not have big drawdowns if you're a long-term investor.
Right.
And if you look at, okay, how did Three Arrows Capital do with how they managed all their complex derivatives and crazy strategies? Well, they took their fund to 12 billion, and then now what are they at? They're at zero because they got liquidated and went to zero. Okay, FTX, right? Alameda, the fund behind FTX, they literally ran their customers. So they would bring on a new token, they'd buy a bunch of the token, then they would release it to retail and they'd sell on retail, right? They had ways to never get liquidated because they own the exchange. Why are they going to liquidate themselves
Right.
on a derivatives trade? And they had all these crazy strategies, and guess what they did? They went to zero. So a lot of the times, the best thing to do is to formulate a simple strategy where you're not over leveraging, you're not buying poo-poo you knew, and you're not buying all these crazy, stupid coins,
Right.
and you're just keeping it simple and just implementing the timeless investment strategies that any successful asset manager would talk about. If you go look at Stanley Druckenmiller, Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, they would all say, hey, why don't you just DCA when price goes down? You bring down your average purchase price. And that's the thing that people need to understand is usually that's the way to go about investing. And then typically what people are really worried about is they see the unrealized losses on their account. And they're like, holy crap, I just had a 70% drawdown in Bitcoin. I put in 100K and now it's literally worth 30K. So I just lost a bunch of money. You didn't actually lose money until you actually sell.
Right.
Right. And if you're implementing, you always got to ask yourself, well, what's the time frame of my investment? If you're talking about trying to invest into crypto in the next 6 months and you need that return in 6 months, don't go invest into crypto.
Right.
If you're talking about 5 years, that's every cycle is played out in a 4-year length. So you're probably going to do pretty well if you have that time horizon. So it's all about asking yourself those important questions and understanding that, like, unrealized losses and real losses are different. If you
Right.
go into those dumb meme coins or you use too much leverage on a derivatives platform, when you get liquidated or you get rug pulled, that is actually going to zero.
Yep.
And you just lost that money.
Yep.
But if you buy Bitcoin and hold in cold storage and you're in a good spot and you've got a longer time horizon, you got an unrealized loss and an opportunity to add to your position and lower your average price.
And when you say cold storage, what do you mean by that?
Just like off the internet.
Yeah. So
you
putting
gotta
it actually into a hardware wallet.
Yeah. I
Right.
use a Zero wallet by Ngrave. It's the quote unquote coldest wallet. I have nothing to do with their company, by the
I
way.
was saying in this episode is
Yeah,
sponsored by.
yeah. No, I don't even know who started the company or anything,
'Cause
but
I just got like
a Ledger.
a ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great too.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I was like, wait, man, am I missing out?
Yeah,
Is
no.
my wallet not cold
Just do
enough?
not buy them on
Like-
secondary markets. Don't go to Amazon and buy it.
Right.
Because like people can be like a secondary seller of it and they can program it to literally just when you're putting your crypto on the ledger, it's actually going to their wallet and they can take your private
Whoa.
keys. So like you got to go to the company's website. and buy from their website.
It's so messed up. I know
Yeah.
there's a couple of times where there was a private, there was like a private sale going on. It was supposed to be a good project. And then it happened to me one time where I got added into a Telegram group and it's had the same name. And they're like, all right, to open up early, click on this link and you go to whatever Oink sale or whatever that, you know what I'm talking about? It's like Pink Sale or whatever, where a lot of these smaller projects launch on for like their pre-sale.
Was it an exchange?
No, it's like Pancake Swap, but it's like something
Oh, a
different.
Dex.
Yeah, it's like a Dex.
Yeah.
And got sent the link that looks just like it.
Oh man.
Pancake Swap dot APPP or instead of APP
Yeah.
or whatever. Go and I put in like 10 grand and then it didn't give me my stuff. And I was like, what is going on? So I went back and did it again. So it's like 15 grand. I got scammed out of it in a matter of
Yeah.
whatever. And then I went and looked at it. And we looked at the wallet. My buddy's really good at, crypto stuff. So we like chased down this wallet and he's like, dude, he just made like 450 grand in about 15 minutes from like running that scam. And I was like, that is so shitty.
Yeah.
Like, why are people, and that's why, crypto has a bad name. That's why the coaching info business has had, its ups and downs with people. It's like, man, just shady people out there doing dumb shit.
It's terrible.
It's terrible, man. It's like, if you were to spend all that time that you spent on coding that and setting up the Telegram thing and getting all these people to push people in there, it's like, if you just took that energy and focused on your own project, your own business, I think you could actually sleep at night and build something real. So for those of you that are, investing in crypto or thinking about it, it's like, just be really, really, really careful. And I was even like, I felt like I was pretty well versed at the time. I'd been in the crypto area for, a couple of years and knew how to send money and knew how to buy it and knew how to research projects and still, had that happen.
Yeah. It's just what comes with an early stage industry.
For sure.
And the same thing with the volatility. I talked about this on the mayor's podcast like a year ago, is like people look at it and they see it's so volatile and they just assume that that's risk. Like volatility and risk are first of all different. But secondly, it's like kind of like an infant child. Like when the infant child comes out of the wound, how happy can they be one moment and then they just flip a switch and they're super, stressed out and crying the next month?
I got one. I know exactly what.
Yeah. Okay, so you know better than even me, but like that's the same way that early stage assets operate as well. Like when there's not a lot of long-term capital and then they're super volatile.
For sure.
So like, but that's the price that you pay when it's early stage. There's not always going to be the opportunity to invest into something that's less than $1 trillion market cap that has the potential to go to tens and tens of trillions. Like asset classes don't just come out of nowhere.
Right.
Like we're actually very lucky that we got this opportunity.
For sure.
But it's, there's a lot of nuances with it and you do need to know what you do. I know I got some friends that lost a lot of money, in Celsius and these other, places. And it's really too bad, but that's just part of the game.
So the safest way for people that are looking to get into crypto, like what advice would you give for them? Where would they go and buy it? How would they set up, what wallet would they have? We already talked about DCA. Like I use Coinbase. I feel like that's a pretty easy platform for people to get into. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, they're a public company and they do have billions of dollars of reserves, but their stock's down like 9x, but could be an opportunity. But at some point you got to use an on-ramp. So you do have to get fiat currency and convert that into crypto at some extent. So yeah, I don't think Coinbase is a bad place. I don't think Binance US is a bad place. It's a little bit more advanced of a platform, but after you buy it, you then do the research to understand self-custody. That's what crypto was invented for, was self-custody and to remove counterparty risk. So the whole point of this entire asset is so you can hold your own asset and not have to tell anyone that you're holding it either.
Right.
So that's the main thing that I would say is really important, is understand self-custody. Yes, use the exchanges to transact. It's called an exchange for a reason. You're exchanging. You're not holding there. It's not your piggy bank.
Right.
So move it into self-custody and hold it in a place where it's offline and in cold storage where it can't, it's very, very unlikely that it's going to be taken from you.
Great advice. Great advice. Because for the longest time, I would just leave everything on my Fox wallet. What's the
MetaMask?
Yeah. I always call it like,
it's a little bit safer. I mean, you don't have the counterparty risk of Coinbase or BlockFi,
Right.
right? Because they do dumb stuff. They may make loans to institutions. They do all these things that you don't know completely what they're doing with their balance sheet and their attention and energy. But with MetaMask, if you lose your private keys, MetaMask is not helping. They can't touch it.
Right.
They literally cannot do anything about it. So that's a hot wallet. What we were talking about earlier with self custody, that's a cold wallet.
Gotcha.
So it's still online. It could still be hacked online. Like if you open a phishing email and they say, "Hey, 10% off that lawn chair that you were looking at last week." And then guess what you do? You got to type in this code to this bar, right? That gives you the 10% off code. But in reality, that just took control of your computer. And now they can go into your MetaMask and send the crypto out of your MetaMask. That's the type of stuff that happens.
Wow.
So that's why like we use only like completely separate. I've never connected this computer to anything except for this one specific Wi-Fi. And we never use we have crypto only devices and crypto only emails. And every new exchange or new account we're setting up is a different email. And we
Smart.
never send anything to that. We never send anything out of that email. And we never put that email into anything to ever get any other email. So like we completely separated to limit or decrease the chance. But yeah, if you're on a hot wallet, there's still a little risk, but it's less counterparty risk than an exchange or lending institution.
So going back to talking about paper Bitcoin, would it be smart then for people, and if let's just say everybody was to go out there and pull everything off the exchanges and put everything into their cold wallets, would that fix that issue? Would that crash Bitcoin, or should we not even tell people about this?
It would, yeah.
Because I've never heard that concept. I had no idea that happened, that they were working like banks. But it's like back in 2007, 2008, when people literally went to the bank to pull out their cash. I knew friends that had millions of dollars in the bank that could actually not get cash out of the bank.
Well, yeah, that's how it is now. It's actually even worse probably now than it was. Banks around the US, they are required, it depends on where they're located and what type of bank they are, but they're required to hold 0 to 10% of assets. So when you go and deposit money, it's called fractional reserve banking. They're taking your $100 and at maximum, they're keeping 10% there. So, you know, if people tried to pull out more than 10% of the assets that they've actually deposited in the bank, that bank is going under because they won't have the money, or it's going to take a lot of time for them to go pull back the money. But they they use that money and they go lend it out.
Right.
But they're just more strict on their, you know, guidelines and who they let pull. I don't know if you ever tried to pull big money. I pulled some big money out of banks, and you got to schedule it.
Oh yeah.
You got to go in there. There's bodyguards. They go in with you. They go out with you. They put it in these special bags, and like you got to be. We were just using it to shoot some ads. What I'm gonna do? We're putting this back in 2 days.
Right.
But yeah, that's how banks in the U.S. operate too. People don't even know that, but like and if you go, you know, if a bank goes bankrupt because we go into a deep recession or something like 2008. You know, you can maybe get $250K back, but at the end of the day, it's not all FDIC insured. So you're still giving your money to another institution. You have that counterparty risk, and they just have an IOU that says, "Hey, man, I owe you 500 grand," but that's not a guarantee that you get your 500 grand back. So that's the power of, you know, crypto assets, is being able to hold your own self custody because
it's actually there.
It's
You own
yours.
3 Bitcoin. All 3 Bitcoin are in that cold
Mhm.
storage.
And you could go take that Bitcoin. You don't even need the device. You could go take that Bitcoin to Zimbabwe, and because you remember the seed phrase in your head. So you could just take 100 million across the border because you remembered your private keys in your head, and you just go type in your private keys right online, and you can, there's your Bitcoin. And that's the crazy power of it. I mean, there's a lot of other things I could talk about, but yeah, self-custody, I think people they have to learn about it now. Just because all the bankruptcies that just happened. So
100%. And, you know, now that I'm getting older, building up my liquidity, building up my assets, it makes me feel safe to know that is an option, to be able to literally take my money, convert it into Bitcoin, like actually have it. And now you can start to see there's like Bitcoin ATM machines showing up like all over the place. And I'm really excited for it to continue to move in that direction, because really that's giving us our power back.
Mhm.
Right. because you watch, you read the book 1984 and you watch some of these conspiracy theories where it's like literally based on your behavior. They start, locking up your finances and
I mean,
it's shutting down your bank account. I mean, it's already happening.
yeah. I mean, what just happened to Kanye? I mean, what you could Andrew Tate. Like, what did they murder someone or what? Why did J.P. Morgan shut all their accounts down?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just because they don't have the same beliefs and whoever they is, whatever they want. So like it is literally happening right now, and that's the power is the censorship resistant part
Yep.
of the asset class. So happy to have it. Your original question: should we tell everyone to take off of exchanges? Probably not. But the power of everyone withdrawing recently because of all these bankruptcies has been huge because now all these companies they're showing their assets on chain. And that's another powerful thing about blockchain. So you can see everything. Like we do have a lot of analytics that are called on-chain analytics because you can see where the crypto is sitting, where it's moving to, if people holding, long term are moving their assets or selling them, or you can see a lot of really important statistics. And now these exchanges, everyone's saying like all their customers are demanding that they show the on-chain proof of reserves. So now these exchanges are coming out and saying, "Hey, here's the assets that I have, and here's how many, depositors we had." So then it's like, okay, we know for a fact they hold 500K Bitcoin and 12,000 Ethereum or whatever it is. So with that, the positive of all this stuff has already been happening, and it's starting to help the whole paper Bitcoin issue.
Okay, that's great. And because that's what is also great about the blockchain is, yes, you can track all that. Yes, you can show liquidity, but you can still be anonymous. You're just seeing essentially where the money's flowing,
Mm-hmm.
which is really powerful. And then with each of those exchanges happening, there has to be multiple, I guess they're called equations, right? That the Bitcoin computers are figuring out to say,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you actually have that. Like
Mm-hmm.
humans are not controlling that. That is a machine. So there can't be human error.
Mm-hmm.
We see it happen all the time in our merchant processing for our companies, from funding companies, from banks. Like we have 5 people on our accounting team. They catch mistakes every single month. Last month we caught $9,000 in mistakes that was supposed to be paid to us.
Mm-hmm.
They're never going to catch that.
Yep.
The banks, the finance companies are never going to come back and be like, you know what? Chance, sorry, we made a mistake. Here's your $9,000 back. They don't. And so that's what I love about Bitcoin and the blockchain. It's like there is
Mm-hmm.
not a mistake. You send one Bitcoin across the world, that entire Bitcoin is going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all I think that one of the most interesting things, and probably people even listening to this don't understand, is instead of having the buildings and the fax machines and the employees and the phones and all of that nonsense.
That costs a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. That goes into mining equipment that produces income. That's also a tax write-off when you go to the investment piece, but it helps validate and verify the transaction. So when you send Bitcoin to someone else, it goes through the miners verify that transaction and say, "Yep, that's coming from here to go over here." And they don't know your name, right? They just know that it's this wallet
Yep.
address. But I actually just saw today, Elizabeth Warren just submitted a bill to KYC every wallet. So even if it's a custody wallet, if it's a MetaMask wallet, they want to, KYCs know your client. So they want to know who everyone is. We'll see if that bill gets passed, but that was just submitted, I think, today.
Wow. Well, that's interesting that I brought up that conversation. I must
Yeah.
have been picking up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope that doesn't happen because that kind of starts to defeat the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm also excited about in, blockchain, there's a good friend of mine that just started a company where they're starting to do real estate asset funds all owned by, partial percentages through
Mm-hmm.
the blockchain, which I'm really excited about, where you can buy a house in 2 seconds
Mm-hmm.
and it just is your part of your wallet or your NFT or whatever. And you don't have to go to the bank and pay the realtors all the fees and pay all these middlemen, the title company, the this or that. It's like, no, I want that house. Cool. I own the
Yeah.
house. Boom. Here you go. We're not quite to that process, but I think we're getting very close. What have you seen that really outside of the trading and building the funds? Like, what else about crypto or the blockchain is really exciting for you as far as like asset management and growing your net worth in other ways?
Yeah, I think another big you're exactly right, the tokenization and digital ownership of assets. So like you could tokenize this, a condo complex, and if it's $1 billion condo complex, you could have 1 billion people own an NFT that represents their ownership of it. And then the net operating income could pass through the smart contract and go to all the token holders. Like that's you could
Like that.
yeah, like automatically. Like,
Yep.
and then you're talking about the title. Yeah, why does it take 35 days to close on a property? I don't understand. Why can't we just say you own it and now you own it? Here's the money. Cool. You're good to go. Like why does it take over a month?
Because
But
like I value my time so much,
yeah.
right? Like we bought working on buying our third home, and it's this long drawn out thing. And I went back and actually looked at the amount of minutes I spent speaking to my realtor, speaking to the title company, negotiating with the seller.
Yeah.
And it was like a good 15, 20 hours that month
Hmm.
to make that happen. It's like I know what my time is worth. And it's like, man, if I could just say, boom, okay, I want that house, okay, done, you're cool. Same thing on the other side.
It could be on OpenSea. I
Yeah.
mean, you could literally go buy a house on like something like OpenSea. It's like buying a Bored Ape.
Yeah.
Same thing. I mean, why can it not be like that?
Right.
It's just because we have dinosaur railroads on what everything's been built on, and that's changing.
Yeah.
But I think Web3 is really interesting. It's a really hot word. I kind of even hate using the word because so many people talk about it, and it's just like, what does that even mean? What it really means is like, Web 1 was you going to the internet and viewing information, right? So you could just go to a website and read stuff. Web 2 was you going to consume the information, but also being able to share information and content. So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Web 3 is now saying, okay, so instead of Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube owning all of your content, now Web 3 is you can build these on blockchains, on public blockchains or private. But now the users, they can consume the info, they can share the info, and now they can own their own info and data as well. So instead of all these companies making tons of money off of your data and your content that you really should own, but you really don't own it when
Yep.
it's on the platform.
Yeah, when you're on Instagram,
Yeah.
YouTube, those things. And then yeah, they can take your account away at any time.
Yeah.
And that's what's really sad is a lot of people have built their entire businesses off of one platform, off their Instagram
Mhm.
account.
Mhm.
And there's like one too many nipples in the
Oh,
photo.
man.
It's like
No.
gone.
Yep. No, dude, that
You say
happened to me.
something that's slightly about some politician, boom, you're gone with like your millions of followers that most people took years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to even, build that.
Yep.
What
I
happened in your case?
Right when I was right around like I think it was like 80K a month, and I was only on Instagram because I just wanted to focus on like just
One
my
platform.
which was good and stuff, but like my no idea why. Just one day, up, you're disabled. I wasn't talking about politics or any conspiracies, anything. Just like, up, your account's disabled, and they don't tell you why. They don't tell you what policy you broke. None of that. And like my chargeback rate on my merchant went up to like over 10%
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
people thought I just like scammed them.
Disappeared. Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude. Kid. So I took like 6 weeks. I had to pay someone $5,000, and they got it back for me. And then everything was fine, and I used that as a point in time to be like, dude, I gotta diversify where I'm building my brands. So that was a big, big learning lesson. And if I didn't get it back, that could have really screwed me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of worrisome. If anyone's watching this, you should totally not be accustomed to one place. And like if you hate Facebook because they keep shutting down your ad account, it's because you're relying too heavily on them.
Yep. 100%. Like one is none is the way that we think about it in our business because
Mhm.
we're always focused on, that one-legged pony. It's like that's easy to fall over.
Mhm.
So yeah, diversifying your content. And it's, what I like to tell people too is you can take the same content and chop it up and put on all those different platforms and still grow a
Mhm.
following. The people that live on Twitter love to live on Twitter. They don't want to go watch you on TikTok.
Mm-mm.
The people that are on TikTok love TikTok. They don't want to go anywhere else. The
Yeah.
people that are watching your long form on YouTube want to stay there. The people that live in your email inbox, they want to stay there. So give your followers, give your people what they want on
Mhm.
all of the platforms because that's where they want to stay. That's where they're comfortable.
Yep.
And then you're diversifying, right? And again, that's something I wish I would have spent a lot more time doing back when we were building, but we were just focused on the ad side of it and weren't focused on the organic content. And that's what we're
Mhm.
like tripling down on now
Yep.
that I wish I would have done in the beginning.
Yeah.
And
I
even when
would
people
say
are just getting started, like if you're just getting started in something, just put out content because people think, oh, I don't know enough. Or they think all these like,
The lighting's not good.
Yeah, I have a bad like these
I only have an
phones.
iPhone. Dude, I film 90% of all my content and ads on an iPhone on a $40 stand. Not even, it's probably not even $40. It's probably $14.
There you go. Like we have no excuses. And if
Mhm.
you are creating a business, it's because you know enough about an industry or a product to add value. You already know more than 90% of the other people in that industry, or especially your customers. So
Mhm.
people always get in their own way of like, oh, I can't create the content because people are going to think I'm stupid or I don't know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Since you're creating a business, you already know more than your customers. So
Mhm.
when you're talking about trying to gain more customers, you're going to add value.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think back to your original question, like I think it's gonna, blockchain in particular, like healthcare, instead of like having to rely on employees that could, expose HIPAA violations with, patient info can be stored on a blockchain. Logistics, Amazon, Walmart's already using different providers to be able to locate packages quicker on a blockchain. Um, you look at payments, like for everything that we do, for people selling anything online. I think payments is right around the corner of being revolutionized.
Which
We're,
needs to be like these
it's
merchant processing companies are taking
yeah,
3%,
yeah. Their
3.5%. You
their
got,
margin's gonna go way lower.
and it's not, and it'll protect the businesses because when someone goes in and creates a chargeback, it most of the time always just favors the
Oh yeah,
consumer,
you get
even
screwed.
though you provide, contract, you provide everything. It's like it's unfair, and there's no companies that want to back that up because at the end of the day, Visa, Mastercard, Visa, Mastercard, like they run the world. They are behind all the merchant process. So even though
Yeah.
you can go sign up with the Stripes of the world and the PayPal merchant processing and yada 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 yada, there's thousands of them. If the chargeback rate gets too high, Visa, Mastercard will shut down their portfolio. So it's not even them, right? So
Mhm.
to be able to move to blockchain and be able to process money there where these big companies stop, we take the control back, then there's like an equal, communication between the buyer and the seller.
Stripe's already doing. They just partnered with Polygon to
Rad.
roll out their blockchain, and you can use USDC and I think Matic and like maybe one other stablecoin to pay for things. So like it's already happening, and they know if they don't do it, they're screwed. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think payments is going to be really big. And then there's just it's crazy the amount of use. I think blockchain's even more important. Like blockchain is just an open accounting book that stores transactions and data.
Yeah.
So if you can try to put a value on that, it's very difficult. Like think how much AWS is worth. That's pretty much what these smart contract platforms are. You can go build any type of application
It's
on top
incredible.
of a public blockchain. And then the cryptocurrency is just a secure way to transfer value. So when you're putting in like those two things together, storing and recording data and transferring value, I mean, try to put a value on that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. And, it gives me reassurance speaking to an expert, knowing what is to come. Cause I was like, oh man, I got kind of smoked and
Yeah.
like, I hope it comes back. I hope some cool things are happening. I haven't been able to keep up with it. I've learned to be hyper focused on one business and make a lot of money doing that instead of being all over the place, which I've learned
It's,
that lesson a couple of times.
yep.
So it's good to be reassured that, great things are still happening and that
Mm-hmm.
industry is still moving in the same direction because we need it. I mean, the people that still have the power and the kind of the old world have been resisting it,
Mm-hmm.
institutional, but now seeing a lot of the big players jump on board, especially recently. I think we got some exciting times ahead of
Yeah.
us.
I mean, as an investor, what you want to see is you want to see price going down and fundamentals going up. Because long term, the fair value of that asset or industry is going to be reflected. So as long as you're seeing the fundamentals going up, Jeff Bezos talked about this during the dot-com bubble, right after when they were actually like really successful. But he said, I saw the price of our equity going way down, but I saw like all the volume of new orders and customers and all that picking up. So I'm like, this is amazing. Like we're actually going to do really well. Meanwhile, everyone else is really scared.
Yep.
But like he knew that the fundamentals were eventually going to get priced in to the value of their equity, which is exactly what will happen. I mean, couldn't be more excited for the industry. But yeah, if you lost money, I think it's a really intelligent decision, especially if you're in control of your income. Just put your head down. You should be thanking the bear market right now. All that's doing is it's giving you more time.
Yep.
more time to go make more money to then potentially go buy the dip.
Go back
Really.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. And I don't, any type of bad thing, that perceived bad thing, which price going down and up is not good or bad. It's just a matter of fact. But a lot of people think that price going down is bad. And use that as fuel to go make more money. Okay, you lost 300 grand. How can I go make 300 grand in the next 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Let's go make it happen. Right. Use that as fuel. Don't be like, upset if you guys have lost money. Use that as something to have a launch pad to go do more and level up.
That's great insight. So we always end on this. Like, what does the word abundance mean to you?
Limitless, more than you can comprehend. I think I always think about quantum leaps. Like, how can I have let's not talk about linear growth. And if you want to really have a quantum leap, you need to be abundant with the way that you think. And I think it all starts up here, because if you don't have an abundant mindset, which I know this is what, your podcast is all about, that affects your belief systems, and your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your destiny. So if you have bad beliefs, you don't have an abundant mindset, there's no way you're going to have a massive destiny that you're, unbelievably successful and impact other people. So I think it's just a way of life, pretty much. I'm sure you would agree. I'd love to hear your thoughts too, because you've probably done more thinking about this than I have.
No, man, that's great. Like, it's just like what you said. It really starts there, and that's how like my whole journey began. Is because after my dad committed suicide, I went into a really dark place and was like abusing drugs and alcohol and just complete self-destruction.
Yeah.
And ended up going to a biohacking conference and learned about meditation, learned about the 40 years of Zen, learned about all this like brain stuff that I could be doing to like get my brain out of like a negative process, because I had completely shut off my subconscious, wasn't allowing to feel, wasn't allowing to think of my higher self, eating all this terrible food that was like calcifying my pineal gland. So like I actually could not think straight and positive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I was a angry person, but I just wasn't in my state where I needed to be. So breaking out of that, eventually getting my mind back to, because I had a bad relationship with money. I thought money was terrible. I thought anybody that made it had to screw somebody over or sue somebody or whatever it was. And so I always deflected it. And so through the process of like, man, if I can generate more resources, I can have a more positive impact on the world. I was never a guy that wanted all the cars and the mansions and all that. I was like, I just want to be able to help the people around me so I can go have vacations and spend time with the people that I actually love, not the people that I have to just go with. Right.
Yeah.
So abundance for me is being able to be doing the things that I want whenever I want with the people that I want, and not having a deadline. Cause I'm the person that never wants the party to be over and never wants the vacation to be over. And like now so many times with my friends, like, let's just stay another 3 or 4 days. And like, that is like an abundant life for me. Cause I always had that fear of having to be back for something. They say most like 80% of heart attacks happen on Sunday night because people are so stressed out about Monday.
Wow.
Like, that stuff's real, And so me getting into a place where I was able to move out of that and really just like eliminate stress and have an abundance and joy and energy was like always my goal. Because when you relieve stress, right, you get into ease, and illness is literally dis-ease, you not in ease. And the Chinese, I studied Chinese medicine when I was younger, and like the Chinese believe like the root cause of all dis-ease is stress. So if I don't have that, and I'm living an abundant life that is constantly de-stressing me, then I feel like I've won. So that's my definition of abundance.
Yep. That changed my life dramatically. When I had options to, like exactly what you said. Hey man, you want to go to Cabo
Options.
next? Sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, you want to go, it's everyone that watches I have a Urus, and people that watch people that have, Ferraris and whatever, right? They think that they want the car. What you really want is you want the option to buy the car.
Right.
You want the abundance to be able to go do whatever you want.
For sure. For sure. Like, when I was finally able to buy my dream car and build it out and, build my 74 Bronco, like that was such a great feeling for me. And at the same time, I was like, oh yeah, I could go buy a whatever, a
Yeah.
Ferrari or this, and like just knowing that I could, and then I'm like, but that's not me. Like I don't want
Yeah.
that. It was still like I still had that rewarding feeling of being like, I
Exactly.
have the option
It's
to.
empowering.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
It's definitely empowering. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show. This was a lot of fun. You got to share a lot of great insight. I learned a ton from you on this
Nice.
podcast. I know we're
Good.
going to do business and hang out definitely in the future. For our listeners listening in, like, how can they support you? How can they get more information about what you do? I know we'll probably post a link below this where people can just go check that out and go check out all your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just follow the best, I post a lot of like data and my mindset stuff, my lifestyle. I work out every day. I post all that stuff on Instagram. So that's probably the best place for people to go connect with me. And then yeah, scaling up YouTube, TikTok, like you, I'm doubling down on content over the next year. So I'm definitely everywhere. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, go check out my YouTube and Instagram.
Dope. And we'll definitely link that down below as well.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Jeff,
I had
thanks,
fun.
man. Yeah, that
I
was
learned
awesome.
some good stuff too, man. I appreciate it. That was awesome.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.